Welcome to the City of Treasure Island Planning and Zoning Board meeting for April 17th, 2025. If you wish to speak on the topic which is on today's agenda, a speaker's card is available on that table over by the entrance and must be filled out and given to the chairperson. Please do not address the board from your seat, but rather from the podium where your comments can be heard by all and recorded as required by Florida statute. Unscheduled topics may be presented under the public comments section of the agenda. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if everyone in the room would please silence their cell phones so we don't have any unnecessary interruptions. We have one new board member here today, and she needs to be sworn in.
You're going to repeat after me. Yeah, we can stay in the chair. Go ahead and raise your right hand. I state your name.
Kara Sim,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and the government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I will well
that I will well
and faithfully perform the duties
and faithfully perform the duties
on the Planning and Zoning Board
on the Planning and Zoning Board
and local planning agency
and local planning agency
of the City of Treasure Island, Florida,
of the City of Treasure Island, Florida,
on which I'm about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Welcome to the board, and I want to take a minute to thank Michael Brasciano, if I mispronounce her name again, and Lynn Fisher for their service to the board. Several have moved off the island, and that's the reason for their resignations. Okay, if you're going to speak on today's case, you need to be sworn in. So, Tia, we'll let you swear in anyone who's going to speak today.
Give me 1 second. I knew I forgot one thing. Do you by any chance have the swearing in paper?
I do not know.
No. I got it. Can everyone raise their right hand that's going to be speaking today? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, Tia, could we have a roll call?
Gary Potenziano.
Here.
Ross Sanchez.
Here.
Kara Sim.
Here.
Chris Downing.
Here.
Marvin Shadler.
Here.
Richard Harris.
Here.
Thank you.
So we do have approval of minutes. We have none. Status on prior planning or zoning cases. What is happening in the city?
I swear one of these days I will get that to you before these meetings. But obviously, we're still busy. But yeah, Kara, just so you know, like typically what I would try and do is I would try to put together like a sheet of like overpass P&Z cases and just give you basically like an update of where they're at. So, but I do have some that I wrote down if I can read my own handwriting. So just some right now. So we got the gas station. Last week, we heard they're still working on corrections comments, most with FDOT, so having issues with them. And then the 4-unit structure at 10126 Gulf Boulevard, that's just going through permit review right now. And the parking lot at 12765 Sunshine Lane, they're working with the county on getting the easement, which was also part of that right-of-way vacation that they had. And then the final plat at 7675 Bayshore Drive, that applicant is working with FDEP because he has to gain title of the artificially filled land between the deed line and the mean high water line. So once that's done and we get that documentation, we'll bring that back for the final plat recommendation to the commission. And then, yeah, there's the biggest ones I can come up with right now. So,
Yeah, those were the big ones. That last one was the stuff on Sunset, right? The condos.
yes, yeah.
By
Yeah, the
Bosiak?
Bayshore, yeah, Bayshore
Okay.
Drive.
Yep, all right.
I forget the exact address, Jesse, but the buildings came down, the silt fence was up, and then the storms came. I assume that one is, it's up there around 124th, right on Gulf Boulevard. Is there anything happening with that one at all? I mean, I'm not even real sure of the address, so I'm not helping you there, but it was going to be a five-story, five-over parking hotel or condo hotel right there on Gulf Boulevard. It just doesn't appear that much is happening. Maybe Catherine knows.
As far as I know, that's still a viable project, but they haven't turned anything in.
Okay, thank you.
There.
Just
And then-
curious.
Sorry to pepper you,
It's the one I'm thinking about.
Jesse.
Right.
Arvelia, that was a big project.
I have not heard anything back on that.
Oh, here she
Barry
comes.
read
Watch
some
out, Jess.
News article.
I just came across a couple of news articles and residents and people walking by there. The owner was saying that he's not going to do anything at this point right now. He's going to pull. He's not going to do anything to the building, apparently.
So I misspoke. I was talking about our villa, not 124th, because I'm not familiar with a five-story project on 124th.
It sits on a corner, the one Richard's referring to.
Yeah, it was a Jack Bosiak project,
Oh,
and
from like 2 years ago.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
because the buildings did come down, the chain link fence did go up with the screen around it, and it's been sitting there.
I'll check with Jack next time I see him.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything. from
Property
that
sold.
developer.
Property sold. It was listed for sale.
Yeah, most of these properties have gone up for sale. Our villa, they may not be doing anything now. We are working with the people that have these damaged hotels and everything to get fences up and to get those properties secured because we've got pools, we've got, potential hazards.
Okay.
Okay, great.
I do have one thing. What about the parking lot down there at the end of the highway that we voted? What's up with that?
That's what Jesse was just saying, that they're going through an easement with the county.
Yeah, that's the Sunshine Lane.
Sorry, missed it.
And Jesse, do you have a number of variances in the queue at this point? I know we're looking at one today, but
Variances. There's maybe one more. A lot of the things that I have coming up are basically just going to be like actual site plan approvals
okay.
and one special exception use as well.
Are you seeing a lot of the lifted houses need variances for stairs for access?
Not yet. That's like one that I was mentioning that might be coming up. Besides that was the other one that we approved. I believe that was last
Yep.
month or
Yeah.
month before.
Off Tarpon.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And most of those are going to be able to be approved administratively and not come here. Is that correct?
It depends on what level they go to. So that ordinance that we did pass, 2024-27, I believe that was. Yeah, like a lot of those, like the stairs, electrical meter platforms, stuff like that, can encroach in the setbacks. But if they want to go beyond that,
Beyond that,
we would
if they
have to.
stay within those bounds that were passed, then it doesn't have to come here. Okay.
Okay, hearing procedures. Noah, you got anything you need to tell anybody?
Yeah, I'm just going to go over the quasi-judicial stuff since we have a pretty big audience.
Okay.
The one agenda item the Planning and Zoning Board is hearing today is a quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that it's kind of like a court proceeding with the applicant and the city as the parties, and that any decision the board makes needs to be supported by competent, substantial evidence presented to the board during the hearing. Substantial and competent evidence is evidence that a reasonable mind could use to accept a conclusion. In making its decision, the board will rely solely upon the testimony and the evidence presented at today's hearing. Any testimony given in the form of an opinion will not be relied upon unless given by a qualified witness. The applicant, city staff, and any interested party will have the right to give testimony, present evidence, and any witnesses. All parties will be given an opportunity to ask questions of any witnesses and to rebut the testimony of any other party. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay. Ex parte communication disclosure. Anybody talk to anybody on this case they shouldn't have?
No.
Seeing none, we'll move on. Our one case today, 10A variance 000-499-2025, 142 93rd Avenue, variance request to section 68-541 to reduce the east setback from the minimum required 7.5 feet to 3 feet 10 inches, and the south setback from the required minimum 10 foot to 6 foot 8 inches for an approximate 222 square foot section of the proposed structure. If the applicant would approach the podium and present your case, focusing on hardships of why we should grant this variance.
Hello, thank you for having us here to entertain this variance.
If you could give your name and address.
And my name is Chatrick, Rick for short, Clark, and Michelle
Clark.
And the address is 142 93rd Avenue, and we're on Sunset, which obviously had substantial damage. We were one of those. We actually loved our house just like it was, but unfortunately, Pinellas is not letting us repair that structure. And it's been flooded a number of times, and we understood that at some point we were probably going to have to raise or build up the house anyway. So we were planning for that, just not so soon financially, but it is what it is. The other part to that is that as we've owned this house, it's become our primary residence. Initially, we had rented part of the year out, but it's no longer a rental, and the house coming up will no longer be, that won't ever be rented. It's our long-term home. So I just want to make sure that any neighbors that might comment understand that this is not a short-term rental property or a long-term rental property at all. So therefore, when we were trying to rebuild this, did we lose the microphone? Oh, when we were trying to rebuild, we tried to initially go through be able to stay on the same footprint, but because we wanted to add another story to the one story, that couldn't be done. So we had to go inside the setback. And has everybody been able to look at the variance paperwork that was already generated and sent out previously? Okay, I don't want to spend all that time rehashing that, but I think we presented through my attorney's help, because they're sharper at the ordinances than me, of describing why we believe this is a hardship and falling in with the terms of a hardship through the ordinance. And the big thing with it is that we have, the lot used to be a double lot. Our lot and the lot to the east was one lot, which I think the current owner is here to talk about. So somewhere it was divided with the purpose of the new house on the waterway being the primary lot here, leaving our lot with an irregular shape. And so therefore the setbacks are also in an irregular shape, more in like a parallelogram, which is an odd way to build a house. So we feel like that, and you can see through the red dotted line would be the setback. If we put a rectangle or a square inside the parallelogram, it's going to exceed somewhere on there. But the flip side is we also, if we tuck it into the corner like it is on the what is that, northwest corner, or I'm sorry, is that northwest corner, and we follow a square or rectangle, either one, at some point we're going to exceed the setback with the parallelogram. But if we built the house inside of that space, it would almost be a smaller footprint than we currently have. So that is one hardship we feel. The second component to that is that if we put everything inside that parallelogram, there would be all four sides where we could not use we couldn't get the full footprint. So we'd be penalized compared to our neighbors who can use all their entire footprint inside the setback. We can't if we did it. So even now, when we're asking for the variance, we're asking for it overhangs on the front right corner, but on the back and on the left, you can see where there's still space we can't use. So we're basically giving up. We're asking for the variance of square footage. It ends up being about 168 square feet, not including the stairs, which I guess now that ordinance for exterior stairs is allowable. So if you take that part out, it's 168 square feet as measured by my architect. We're probably giving up the same thing on the front and on the left side and the back side. So all things being equal, it seems like that we're not really impeding too much. On the back, we're not affecting that neighbor at all. To the left, we're not affecting that neighbor. To the right, to the front, we're affecting the street more than we are the neighbor. And to that point, there are more houses on our street that already don't sit back 10 feet with their driveway or their house. The majority of houses on the street are closer than that. And that was something my attorney had looked up when we replied to the variance list. And that's also true on 92nd and 94th. I've gone up and down. There's just a lot of houses that don't comply any more than what we're asking. We're actually better. And to our neighbor to the right, that's the side of her garage and the driveway. So I feel like we're not really, I mean, she could speak for her own mind about the house, but I feel like we're not really imposing on her living space or her view to the waterfront or anything like that, you know, at least from the perspective of this side of the house. So that's really how we came to the conclusion of trying to get this house to work on this lot. The other side, on the right side where we are hanging over, is a deck and on the one side. So if we move that deck in, it's kind of it's not very usable. And if we squeeze the rooms in for that side, that is, because the stairs are on the other way, we're squeezing down towards the stairs. The family room, kitchen, the bedroom above get so small. The bedroom above, it's the master, it would only fit a queen size bed. So I just feel like we're kind of hitting on all those for a hardship as compared to what we already have is actually a little more room than, I think the footprint difference between what we currently have and the largest living space floor is about 150 square feet. I think you're going to say something too, Michelle.
Well, I'm sure all you guys have, like you said, have looked over the information. Did you understand what he was trying to explain? Does it make sense to you? Because for me, I get in the weeds with all these measurements, but basically it's my understanding that what we're really saying, or what the situation is that because we don't, our lot is an odd shape, unless we get a variance, we don't have the opportunity to use the allowable square footage that our neighbors who all have squared lots get to use. So I do feel that is a hardship. You know, lot was divided years and years ago, and a lot has changed. And I guess if I'm understanding you correctly, even though we'd be moving up in the right-hand, we're also moving back. So, I mean, we're leaving, it's kind of one half dozen the other. But the other thing that I know that I kind of prepared some notes. I mean, I know you guys all know that all this is pretty emotional, and so I apologize. I'm gonna have to read a little bit because I'm nervous. Rick is a former Navy SEAL. He is a medically retired veteran. He's 100% total and permanent disability, meaning it will never get better. It's only going to get worse. He's had over 30 surgeries. Part of what we have in our plan is an elevator. We're not doing this to haul groceries, although that would be helpful, but there's a real possibility that, I mean, even now, stairs are hard for Rick, and he needs an elevator, especially as he continues to age. Again, the elevator, since we're having to go up versus living on the ground, it has to be added. It takes up square footage in our house as well. So that's also kind of an unforeseen hardship I feel like we're encountering and trying to build this house. Like Rick talked about, if we don't get this variance, he won't be able to get out into the deck and use it if he ever has to use a walker or a wheelchair. He won't be able to go outside. Similarly, our bedroom, which is above that corner, couldn't have a king-size bed, which he's a big guy, and also with all his pain he's in, he moves around a lot at night. There's just a lot of things. And if we put a king-size bed in there, we literally cannot have bedside tables. And so again, I feel like we're not asking for a huge house. We just want to be able to have bedside tables. And then the other thing I just wanted to say about this situation is that hold on a minute. Oh, is that I know there's a lot of people in this community who are in the same spot we are or worse. And, we love Treasure Island, and our intention is to build a beautiful house that will bring added value. Right now, our neighbors next to us, they scrape their house. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys. There's so many empty lots sitting with shells of houses, or it's been scraped and they're for sale. You've got two people standing here who are ready to build. And like Rick said, this was not in our financial plan. So we're going to have to take out of our retirement that we've been working for years to build this house. And so it's really important to us that it accommodates Rick's disabilities. And, really, like we were saying with the plan, it really only affects our neighbor here. And I just want her to know that we are planning on building or putting in, vegetation between the two houses so that there is privacy. But like Rick said, it is the garage side of the house, and it's not the front door, it's not the ocean view. So I know it will, obviously it affects her, but we don't want to fight with our neighbors. We want to have a good relationship. We want them to be happy with our house. And, I think it's going to be a benefit to the street in general.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions from the board for the applicant? Marvin?
How much time were you spending in the house, the house currently, when you were, I guess you were going part-time back and forth, or?
Me more than her because I was retired before her. So I'm there about 8 to 9 months.
Okay, and
3 years each year.
and how many bedrooms and bathrooms does it have now?
3 bedrooms and 2 full baths. And we had already, just for me getting around or in the future, we had already widened into a barn door from the bedroom to the bathroom and also opened up into the kitchen. So I had a bigger walkway into the galley kitchen. Just trying to plan for long term.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions of the applicant? Seeing none, please have a seat, and we'll have the city. Go ahead, Jesse, with your presentation.
All right. All right, so this is just a reminder. So this is case number VAR-000499-2025, and this is located at 142 93rd Avenue. As you can see, staff provided their analysis starting on page 7 of the staff report, 1 through 8. And pretty much staff's recommendation is denial to a variance request to section 68-541 to reduce the east side setback from the required minimum 7.5 feet to 3 feet 10 inches, and the south front setback from the required minimum 10 feet to 6 feet 8 inches for an approximate 222 square feet section of the proposed structure. Based on analysis of the criteria in section 70-221, above, finding that they have not been substantially satisfied and that unnecessary hardship does not exist, staff's recommendation is based on the criteria set forth in section 70-221 and the following section 68-512. I did have, so just to support like staff's recommendations as well too, section 68-512 does grandfather in the same square footage, which was originally 1,065 square feet, and the proposed structure has increased that square footage to 1,498 square feet.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part? Just the number, the exact difference?
Square footage?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the, as you can see here, the existing footprint is 1,068.
Maybe you can put the microphone a little closer.
sorry.
I can't hear you,
I
Jesse.
thought that thing was pretty loud, but.
It's all right.
All right, so the original square footage is 1,068 square feet, and they will be increasing the square footage to 1,498 square feet.
Okay.
And the degree of the nonconformity, as you can see on the site plan as well too, it's pretty much just relocating it from the northwest section on the lot to the southeast section of the lot. Also, if the applicant does, of course, we do want to encourage disaster-resistant construction. And because of that, we did pass that ordinance 2024-27, which permits stairs to elevated structures to encroach to the setback, so they would not need a variance for that, as we talked about previously. And the applicant has not really officially demonstrated a hardship, and they would still have reasonable use of the land, and this is a self-created hardship based on their construction plans. And that's all
And
I
there
have
is no
for-
requirement that the home be squared off on this lot. Is that right? I mean, there's no city requirement for squaring it to the street.
No, it's just has to meet setbacks, you know.
Okay.
Stairs encroaching on a setback, the ordinance that we had passed was for homes that are being lifted. It was very clear that it wasn't for brand-new construction homes.
Elevated or new construction. I can double check that real quick. If you
That is correct. That is for houses that are being jacked up.
Correct, not brand-new construction.
I
I just want to make sure that was clear, because I know that we had talked about it in the beginning. The applicant had made a comment about it. That would not apply here. Because this is a brand-new build, stairs cannot go over a setback.
Okay, give me a couple minutes.
Not with an administrative approval now. 'cause,
Correct, correct.
That is just to accommodate, I think there's, what I've seen, 4 houses in Treasure Island being jacked up right now. There might be more.
And some may not need it, but anyway, carry on, Jesse.
He's going to prove you're wrong.
Huh?
He's going to try to prove you're wrong.
No, I just want
No, I know
to
I'm
retract
right.
my statement if I was incorrect on that one.
I just know that I'm right.
Provide for
I hope you're right, Jesse. Just so you know.
It's impossible.
I'm pulling for you.
He's
I think
right.
there is allowance, though, for
No, if you-
stair structures for access to the electric. That's not included in that change at all.
Not on new construction builds
Yeah,
whatsoever.
Okay. Yep.
If
Thanks.
you are building a brand-new house in Treasure
You got to
Island,
meet it all the way around.
all your stairs, everything has to be inside the setback.
Yep. Ross, you stand corrected. I was wrong. I retract my statement. That is for actually, only existing structures that are being elevated.
Jesse, on the 1,065 to 1,498, is that the footprint or is that
That's
the,
the livable
is
square
that the
feet,
livable square feet?
or heated square feet, right?
So that's the existing footprint. The 1,065 square foot, is that what you said?
Is that the living square footage?
No.
Oh,
If you look at the plans that are in the packet, this house is not 1,600 square feet. It would be in.
If we're talking about the existing structure.
The existing
Correct,
structure.
okay. Yeah,
you
based off
said the
these
existing
plans, it
structure was
says
1,068.
1,065 square.
Heated.
That was the heated square footage for the
wanna know the
existing
heated
What's
structure.
the 1,498? The number you gave?
Garage area.
Oh, okay, that includes everything.
You're going to have to approach the
Yeah.
podium and speak so we can all hear you.
The garage was converted before I purchased it, and it is in the livable space, so it's almost 1,100.
Gents, to answer your question, the newly
heated
built
space.
living square footage is 2,509 square feet.
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
on
Yeah.
page 30 of the packet.
Okay. So significantly more than the existing. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for the city staff? Seeing none, we're going to go to public comment. First card we have, and we have 2, is Jenny Gunn. Can't read your writing.
Good afternoon. I'm Jenny Gunn, Gunn. I am the neighbor just to the east at 148 93rd, so where that encroachment significantly impacts me. And I'm not sure if I can show pictures, but I do have pictures. This is one of those very narrow Sunset streets. This is more the size of a one-way street. Garbage trucks cannot get down this street. You cannot do a three-point turn. And currently, most of the houses, I would say, are actually destroyed or going to be destroyed. So they're not encroaching on that street at all. And you can see in the picture here where he is saying this encroachment's going to go. It does block my front door. It does block my view. But most significantly, it impacts safety. You would not be able to see to get out of my driveway if this house is pushed out that much further. The square footage increase is in a 50% increase in the footprint alone and over 1,000 square feet in living space. He can set this back 222 square feet, be within the variances, and not cause these kinds, you can see here, not cause these kinds of safety and other concerns. This is unfortunately the first time I've met Chatrick and his wife. This isn't how you want to meet your neighbors, but here we are. So I'm asking to agree with the city to deny this variance.
And I'm sorry, would you mind just saying again where your house is located?
House is that brown.
You're on the water there. Okay.
And where the
yellow one.
mailbox is that southeast corner where they want the 3-foot 10-inch variance, I believe it is. And so you
Okay.
can see that's exactly where my driveway is. I would not have a view to the street. There's a pedestrian pathway that is right there, the clearing in the middle of those two houses. That's a pedestrian walkway. So there's a heavy foot traffic on that street as it is.
Okay, thank you.
That's Blinds Pass in the background.
Yeah, I get it now. All right.
But your,
Spatially challenged sometimes.
It's all right.
your driveway does not encroach in any way on the applicant's
No.
property? Okay.
Is it on
Just
an
wanna
angle?
clarify that. Okay, thank you. We have a second card. Alan Bills. Wait, 1 second. We got to have the,
footprint is not 2,000, the footprint, it's the square footage, but it's above.
can you
It's not
please
a
sit
bigger
down and have Alan Bills, and you can address their comments next. Go ahead, Mr. Bills. Not meaning to be rude to you, but we do have a format which we have to follow. And now it's time for public comment.
And we
You
thank
will
the
have
chair
time
for,
for rebuttal.
and we thank the chair for following the rules. I would say that every lot on these streets is a parallelogram. I bought it 29 years ago. My address is 131 94th Avenue. We tore down a 750 square foot house on a parallelogram. We built a 1,000 square foot house on a parallelogram. There's one spot that hits both setbacks, but that's the only spot that hits both setbacks. I have 6 feet extra setback in the back so I can build an elevator someday if I would ever need it. I also have a king-size bed, and we don't have room for end tables because the lot's not that wide. You got to do your due diligence when you buy your lot. If you want a bigger lot, maybe Sunset Beach isn't the place for you. Maybe go to Paradise Island or Isle of Palms. The lots are a lot bigger. Glad to hear that there's not going to be any more short-term rentals because that's all that's been there. So that is great. I feel bad for you guys that you have to hear this case about this self-created hardship, and we should get rid of all of our setbacks because somebody says, I live on a parallelogram and I want to maximize my square feet. That's not what the variance process is for, and I agree with the city, and I hope you vote this down.
Sir, what was your address again? You said it too quick in the beginning.
131 94th Ave.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for rebuttal for the applicant. So whatever you said previously, go for it.
I just want to say that I don't think that or self-created hardship because, I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that what they're going through because of the hurricane is a self-created hardship. I also don't think it's a self-created hardship that Rick is 100% permanently disabled. We bought a ranch for a reason, but now we cannot have a ranch. Literally, we're being told we can't have a ranch. So I don't think those are self-inflicted. As far as our neighbor who's most affected by this, and I just want to, and I'll let you guys talk about this, but it was my understanding that we're talking about a total variance of about 168 square feet. So we're not talking about a huge, whether we have the variance or not, the house is going up, the house is going to be 2 stories. We're not talking about a lot of variance here. And on that corner where we're asking to move it forward, that is actually going to be a deck. So, I mean, as far as driveway site, it's not going to block anybody's view to the street because it's the deck that we want to make bigger so that he can get out and move around on the deck. So anyway, I'm just not sure if it's from the plans, but it is really, I mean, obviously, we're shifting the house, but that whole corner is a deck. And again, we're just trying to create some outdoor space. We can't have outdoor space on the ground level anymore.
It's 4 stories. You said 2. It's 4.
Living space, living space.
Okay, but it's still 4 stories. It's still,
It's just a crow's nest up there.
So
but
that will stay.
there's still a 4th floor.
Yeah, that stays inside the
No, I understand. I have the plans.
envelope.
Yeah.
So anyway, the only
Like
thing
today you have a 1-story home, correct?
Correct.
This is proposed 4 stories.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the square footage on the footprint is actually from my understanding with county records, it's more than that, but of the living space, which I said before in the rebuttal. But
No, we see. I mean, I can see the outer lay of what it is, but then you also have to multiply that times 3.
That doesn't get into the footprint anymore, except that corner, which we're asking for the variance. The footprint doesn't change. So when people are talking about 2,000 footprint, that's not the footprint. The footprint is actually footprint outside the property. I'm actually a builder too, so I understand the difference. And the corner where the neighbor behind us is talking about and rambling on about how he stayed inside his variant or his setbacks, he also got a variance for a garage height. So, I mean, it's interesting that it's okay for you to get a variance, but not me. But it's not important. The main importance is on that corner that he's closest to, we're actually moving the house forward and giving him more setback space between our house and his house. So that's just a beef. I'm talking about when we rented and not rented as a beef. That's been going on for a few years. But regardless, the end of the day, we're barely changing the footprint from, if you include the house, but you also have the covered patio that's inside the setback now on that side. So
I have a question. On page 21 of the packet, you guys included some photos of some built-up houses. The yellow house, do you have the address for that as well as the blue house?
I don't know if it was in the picture, but it's at the end of 93rd. At the end, it's almost at the corner. But that was my
Jesse,
last.
can you pull that up? Yep. I wanted to look at what their square footages were.
My last point to the rebuttal was just that almost every driveway on our block, the majority, and some have been torn down, their driveway or their front door is far closer than 10 feet, far closer than 10 feet. We're still going, the front door we have now is back like 20. So we're going to come up regardless of whether you don't allow this variance and we build inside it. We're still coming forward to that red dotted line. So whether people are upset about that or not, that's still can happen without us asking for any variance. So we're really not asking for a lot in the front. It's only on a corner. So that was all my thing, is that really we're asking for the corner of that lot to be a variance. If it's not, we're still going to try to comply and build something similar inside that. It just means that all 4 sides, then we have space we cannot use that everybody else can use. That's the bottom line. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've had 2 public comments, no cards. Anybody else in the audience want to speak in regard to this? Seeing none, we will.
Chair, since the applicant had a chance to rebuttal, you should see if staff also needs to rebuttal.
You need to have any further comments, Jesse?
Actually, no, I'm good.
I did have a question for staff if we have a chance for that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just want to make for the right time. So,
you're
Jesse, I'm interested. The existing footprint of this home is non-conforming, and do we know the square footage of the amount that it's non-conforming currently?
They did break that down on a site plan. Give me 1 second, I'll bring that back up.
That's all that area on the left and top, correct? Primarily, that's non-conforming right now?
So, yeah, so as you can see, they put the existing footprint within, basically encroaching the setbacks, 182.36 square feet is non-conforming at the moment.
Okay.
How much, Jesse? I'm sorry.
I just wanted that for the record, I guess.
How much was it?
182.36 square feet.
Oh, I see that now. Okay. Yeah, that's quite clear. Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, any other comments, questions? We'll close the public hearing. A little bit of discussion. And I'll probably have some more questions for you, Jesse, but just looking at the aerial photographs, the house to the north, they're non-conforming. I don't think, like the applicant and everybody else was saying, this area is the worst part of Treasure Island as far as design standards. I mean, the area between 88th Avenue and 95th Avenue, it's inverted crown roadways, very small lots. It's just a tough area to do anything with. If you look at the final plat, the recorded plat, and I will get to it, it's like page 35. And you can tell, I actually Googled the shape of this lot. It's some form of trapezoid. And what I want to do is, I want to discuss.
They're all kind of parallelograms across that street, is that right, or no?
Not really. No. I mean, look at that. The sides are all different. But anyway, regardless, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
What I want to do today is I want to discuss, there's two variances here. I want to discuss them both. And I'm going to start off with the eastern side. You know, if you look on page 30 of the packet, I think that is the best representation because it shows at the north corner, they're almost compliant, almost. On the south corner, of course, that's where the worst situation is. So the shape of the lot does make it difficult to build a rectangular house. There's no doubt about that. And like you were saying before, Chris, there's no requirement that it has to be a rectangular house.
Well, no, I wanted to make sure that that it was legal, and there was nothing against it not being square to the street, not whether or not the shape of the house.
No,
that I understand. But
none at all.
None at
Just
all.
look at
Right.
my next door neighbor's house.
Think about it like a, sorry to interrupt you, think about like a corner lot, like on a canal, when it comes to the
yeah, a
front
lot of
of it.
times they make them pop big pies. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So I was just looking again at that yellow house, and I pulled the stats on it, and they sit on a 60 by 42 foot lot, and you guys currently sit on a 61 by 54 foot lot. Just to kind of throw in looking at your plans versus this particular property.
What's the square footage of that? Yeah.
824 square feet each level.
Each level, okay, so 1,600.
But the point I was making is, obviously, the shape of the lot is I'm not going to call it a hardship. I'm going to call it a difficulty. It challenges this house. I don't have a major objection to the eastern variance. The eastern variance. We are not discussing the southern variance yet, but that is not too obtrusive looking at page 30 of the plans. It does give the man, the applicant, the ability of putting two cars in there. And by the time he gets to his north side, he is almost in compliance with the setbacks. Situation is, in order to facilitate the construction of a nice new house, I don't have any real problems with the eastern variance. On the other hand, and we will, if there's no further discussion of the eastern variance, we can start talking about the southern variance. Any comments or questions about the eastern variance?
I'm good with that.
I'm good.
Okay. The southern variance, I do have a problem with because I have been in this area since 1979, and those streets from 88th to 95th are narrow, poorly designed. I mean, the drainage runs right down the middle street. Nobody designs subdivisions that way. The plat date was 1933. Okay, things were different back then. But as far as building this house even closer to the road, when I know that the garbage guys have to back their trucks down that roadway to even get down there. Situation being is we had a fire on 95th at, I believe the address was 136. We had another fire on 90th at 130. And provided if the fire really got cooking the way those two houses did, it would burn up houses on each side and across the street. But the front setback exacerbates this problem. So I personally am in a situation where I don't have a problem with the east setback. I have a problem with the south setback, just because the house can be built without it. You just won't have as big a house. And not being able to build the house size that you want is not a hardship. I sympathize with the situation, but one thing we've run into on this board many times is the size of your lots. So you know what you bought. And while I sympathize, and I have been up and down this street many times, we need to have something here with a new construction that will not make things worse on 93rd Avenue. And right now, it is a difficult maneuvering area. During the fire on 95th, they actually ended up putting out the fire from the Sea Dogs parking lot because they had a hard time getting fire trucks down the road. So that's my comment on the south setback. That's my comment on the east setback. I'd like to split this thing into two, make two separate motions.
Can we just talk about that a little bit? Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
No,
That's
so-
where we're next.
Because, I mean,
Comments.
In regards to the east setback, because the way I look at it was when you look at any property within Treasure Island, there's a property line. Some of them do have angles. I mean, you could have, I don't know the shape of it, but let's just say you have a flat line on one side and you have an angled line on the other side. And when someone's coming to, build a house or renovate a house, do an addition, whatever, if that setback is at an angle, they have to step it in along the setback. I mean, I think that's basic. So let's just say, okay, you do this variance for this east side. And granted, I'm all about variances. I try to approve them as many times as I possibly can. But there is something when it comes to in the future, okay, well, if someone has a slight line going down the property side and they're like, well, I don't want to step in my masonry or my side wall, I want to just build it over the setback, then do they just come in for a variance and that's allowed? I've always been told when that angle is there, you come down, step in, come down, step in, come in. I mean, I feel like that's what I had to do on my last project. If I would have got a variance to just go right over the setback, that would have been great. I mean, that's.
Well, you have to admit, Russ, I mean, the shape of the lot, I mean, look how that setback line is angled
No, I understand
in relationship. But I'm just saying, yeah, there are ways you could do it. But I'm just saying this is one of the few cases we've had, and believe me, I looked at this one a lot.
I did too. Look at them all.
Where the eastern property line causes a problem. And, the setback line does not parallel the property line.
So then some of the feedback that we have given in the past in regards to setbacks and variances is when it comes to or variances in general, let's just say, is that when you buy a piece of property, you need to know what the setbacks are and if there's any variances attached to your land or your neighboring land. I feel like we've made that comment numerous times.
And I agree with that.
And that's where I struggle with this as much as I want to approve, but
I think the difference here is it's a house that someone already owned, and they are forced into rebuilding. That's the only exception. That's a difference from someone just buying the lot and not buyer beware, I guess. And that's it.
I do have a question actually for y'all. I saw that you were damaged by a previous hurricane as well through permitting when I was looking at things a few years ago with Adalia, and you chose not to rebuild then. Were you substantially damaged this time, like fully, like per the letters they sent out? Okay. And have you thought about potentially just making your house a little smaller?
If you're going to answer the questions, you got to come to the podium.
Sorry.
We just cannot.
Learning. But yeah,
We're all being broadcasted and we're being.
Just from seeing potentially, the other houses that have the same similar lot size, they've just created a smaller house up.
Sure.
And I feel like that is something that could definitely be accomplished here.
Wouldn't accommodate a wheelchair.
An elevator will.
No, I'm
Correct.
saying moving around in the, I've seen both plans and.
What you're saying, we looked at bringing that inside, the similar house inside this lot, and it does shrink down. I mean,
It chops everything.
Have you knocked on any of your neighbors' doors that have houses of the same lot size that have built up, just to see and walk through them to see if it's potentially possible? Because every architect and engineer that I know can work around those.
Sure, we can work around, and that's true, we can. And if we don't get granted the variance, then we will work around it. But in taking something similar, because the lot is this way and not this way, so, the front is longer than the side. So in fitting inside that, our current house gives us bigger bedrooms on that footprint than we would have if we go inside the setbacks. And because then trying to keep a rectangle or a square inside there, we're giving up usable space, so we're actually losing space. But all the rooms and the bedrooms we have now would be bigger than the bedrooms we could have on the second floor of that house. It's a 3-bedroom house is what we're proposing with 2 floors. It gives more living space on the main floor, but the bedrooms would actually be smaller to go inside that than we currently have. And that's what we're saying, all the bedrooms would be 11 by 11 and a half by 11 and a half, something along those lines, then the bathroom and laundry. So can you do it? Yeah, I mean, I've been a builder a long time. I can do anything. I tell every customer that I can do anything with the right money or plan. So, but it does with just 3 bedrooms on that square footage with elevator and a stairwell and bathrooms, shrinks down those bedrooms smaller than what we currently have.
I just had a question about the east-west alignment or, setting. You were non-conforming to the west already by several feet. And did you consider shifting the house to the left to stay within the non-conforming area so that you didn't hit the east?
Just moving the current house?
The entire house.
That house, like I said, I've been a builder a long time. I don't think we can move that house very safely.
No, I don't know. I'm sorry. I meant for your new construction.
Your
did
new
you
construction.
consider the location on the lot to be shifted a few feet to the left so that you'd be staying within your current non-conforming footprint and you would not be hitting then the right side setback issue?
It's more
east
square
side
footage than
setback.
that.
I just wondered if you considered that.
Yeah, but we can't put a second story on the non-conforming lot. We can't increase the square footage on a non-conforming.
Okay, yeah, that's not exactly.
That's what we tried first, yeah. That was our first attempt.
But you really have 4 bedrooms in this new plan, right? 3 upstairs and 1 downstairs?
Downstairs is the office, yeah.
It says bedroom, I mean, it's got a closet and everything else.
If it's got a closet, it's considered a bedroom per building code.
Code.
Well, correct me if I'm seeing this wrong, but there's only 2 on the 3rd floor. Where are you getting the 4th one, Marvin?
Oh,
Primary.
My mistake, because it says 2 and 3, and I was, no, the primary, because you got a primary bedroom.
Yeah, correct.
Primary
So there's
1, 2, 3.
3 on the main floor and then 1 on the floor below.
It's interesting because mine is labeled as a bath number 3.
I really think if you get the right architect, it's amazing what can be done.
I agree.
Maybe you don't have the right architect. If he
have
did
this house already shrunk down, but then we're losing, to make it fit inside here, we lose here, and all.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
We lose space.
I get it, but I'm telling you, there's some incredible architects out there that can figure it out. And maybe you lose a bedroom, because right now you've got one more bedroom
Or you move to a Jack and Jill bathroom.
Right, I mean,
There's a bath, yeah.
I know you want the space, I get it. but-
We're asking, if you give it to us. If you don't, we'll
Right.
figure it out. I get that.
I mean, I know why you want it, I'd want the same thing,
But it's the square
just not
footage,
sure if it
is
can
not- the
happen.
footprints is very little difference. We're giving up, we're asking for 168, we're losing probably 168. The other house had probably almost a 1,200, since we're using the garage.
But the problem
We
is,
don't have more than 1,200.
moving that
living
front
space.
setback 3 feet, that's a problem. Because even though you say that all these houses on the street they're already encroaching, a lot of them are going to get knocked down, if not now, soon. Because I looked at the neighborhood, I mean, a lot of those houses need to go. So eventually, you want new construction starting on the right foot. So we got to leave that 10-foot setback, in my opinion.
I'd really like to see y'all visit some of the neighbors that have the smaller houses with similar lots. Because I agree with you on an architectural standpoint. it's possible. They can finagle it and figure it out for you, for sure. You get the right one
Correct me
in.
if I'm wrong on that, those pictures of like the yellow house and the blue house, aren't those are those 10 feet back from the front?
Oh, I'm sure that there are dozens of places on those streets that
What
do
it's
not,
showing, though, is the square
you know,
footage of the lot
that
versus
do
square
not
footage of the house you
meet
want
it.
versus what they have.
You're always going to have a lot of non-conforming homes, just like your current home
That
is
house was built, that
non-conforming.
yellow house was built in 2005, so that was way before things have changed.
Well, the point I would still like to make is the eastern setback, as you can see what's up there right now, that's deck. And while it's a hardship for the shape of this lot. So I don't have any problem with, on the third floor, a good part of it is deck. The
Yeah,
bathroom.
it's not all deck. Yep.
You know, the bathroom on the third floor is
There's a deck.
gets into it. But, you know, once again, I really don't object to the eastern setback. It's the southern setback. You just cannot make things worse than they currently are, and that's what it's
and to
doing.
that point, that's where I was trying to get with this whole east-west or left-right on this lot, that if you were accepting of the eastern setback variance, why not shift it to the left where you're just keeping it within where it was already non-conforming, as opposed to shifting and giving the variance on the right?
Well, then you're still going through the same process. It's a
Well, it's the
variance.
same
it's a
process,
variance.
but the difference,
Yeah, I see
the
what you're
difference is
saying.
that it was already a non-conforming part of the lot.
It gets in the setback on the west side instead of the east side.
Right.
And 6 of one, half a
And I'm not
dozen.
saying I agree with doing that. I'm just indicating it's one idea.
And that makes no difference to me.
Okay, all right.
You know, it really doesn't. I just,
We'll agree with we'll do whatever you all grant us, or don't have on one side or not either side. We'll make it work. We were just hoping that we were asking and giving a logical explanation why we were asking for this as compared to what's already, the square footage used on the lot right now. With our footprint, it's very, very similar square footage, and it's just odd to fit it into those parameters. And so whatever you grant, we'll work with. Obviously,
We appreciate you bringing it in front of us because that's what we're here for.
yeah, I do agree with you. You know, it is a odd-shaped lot. This is where the Planning and Zoning Board earns their volunteer hours, because if we just want to say, hey, we're going to follow the rule books, we'll deny you right off the bat no matter what. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, that on the east side is not too obtrusive. That would help your final situation out if you got 1 out of 2 variances. And quite frankly, I don't know how much more we wanted to discuss this, but I support the eastern variance. I do not support the southern variance. And, you know, the way it's written all as one variance, and maybe you can't do one without the other. But the thing is, when we make a motion here, whoever makes the motion, I'd like to see 2 separate motions.
I disagree with separating them.
Why?
Because I'd like to see new plans. I also think it encroaches, that leaves on the east side, doesn't that leave like 3 feet
4.
between those houses?
Well, in that very corner, not between the houses, no.
3 feet.
3 feet to the 3 feet
6
10
feet
inches to
over.
the property
Okay.
line.
Sorry.
It's 3 feet to the adjacent.
My eyes showed 4. See how good I am.
Well, I guess the question is, legally, can we split these up,
Yes, we
Mr.
can.
Attorney?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's changing it from 7.5 feet to 3 feet 10 inches.
Nearly 4.
No, Richard, I was thinking the same thing before I walked in here, exactly what you were thinking, but then Ross brings up a good point. Anytime somebody they don't like the side setbacks,
And we've already determined too that Sunset Beach, that whole area over there is,
And Marvin, that's
lots are all
why
different shapes.
we have a board, so we can think about these things. I mean,
get it.
we've heard hundreds of, not hundreds, we've heard a lot of variances over the years. And by and large, every one of them is denied, every one, especially for new construction, because I've always said this, and I know y'all have heard me say it in the past, do not try to modify the lot to fit the building you want. Modify your building to make it fit the lot.
Yeah.
You know, and this is new construction. The one thing And initially, that was going to be my reaction. Then I started looking at it more, and I said, you know, that's southeast corner. And you look on page 29. I mean, the man just wants to park 2 cars in his garage, and I don't think it's that bad. But, you know, as far as, let's put it this way, I know in this area that garbage trucks have tried to turn around, hit buildings, just all kinds of problems in this area. So once again, I'd like to split them, go with the one motion on the eastern, and maybe that would help the applicant a little bit.
Noah, if I were to make a motion and split it, do I have to like difference the case number, or would I have to?
The case number would be the same. I think the way we would do this is you can see in the.
I'll read the contents.
Motion,
I'll read the context on which side.
Yeah. And
Okay.
have that as one motion where you're approving with conditions that one, and then
gotcha.
have another one denying the part that you guys would not want to include in your motion.
I would only be supportive if on this east-west variance, if the home is shifted left so that it remains on the west side in the non-conforming area, and then on the east side, you've eliminated the need for the variance. It's essentially the same thing. I'm just shifting the house in order
You're
to.
getting a
so
variance on the other
you're
side.
basically, I'm giving the variance on the west side, which
Correct me if
wasn't
I'm
asked
wrong,
for.
but if we did that, he'd have to come back with a revised variance request.
That's okay.
Part of the condition we have is that it would be consistent with the plans prepared by their architect group, and the plans currently account for the one they presented to us. So yeah, I think we would need to.
They'd have to come back in with a revision.
And the reason for that is that I'd be supportive only if it allows that shift. And this is for the benefit of the neighbors around, that you know, we're trying to give some benefit to the fact that that the storm caused this as far as having to do the rebuild. You're a resident today. We've, in many cases, said that things can, so long as you're not making it any less conforming, in certain cases. And I think that's the case as far as the west side of this, that there's room to do it if you essentially take advantage of that non-conforming area. But that's the only way I would be supportive.
So you're looking at
Hold on a
it.
second. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's
I'm not trying to be difficult because you guys know my position. But even if you shifted this to the west, it would still have a situation where the building structure goes over the setback.
On the east side?
On the
west side.
Well,
I
so
would on the west side, but it would be in the area that's already non-conforming.
You're just saying not as much. I mean, if I look at that, if I
Right,
look at
it says it's 9 feet 10 inches on the left,
But
and
the
5'7", 4'8", 7'6". I mean, there's a lot of space on that west side of the house.
Rick, just so you know, we're discussing up here. We're trying to help. Okay.
I was going to just say that we actually started that way, so we have the plan from originally when this exact structure was tucked here. And the only thing that's outside the setback then is these stairs, nothing else is.
Okay.
And we could actually delete the stairs, put doors, come in with the same stairs you come into the garage, and make this an entry. And that's what we started with. And then we were told we couldn't do it.
But because it's new construction, Richard, you'd be building a new house on non-conforming, and the whole point of that is you're supposed to build it within the setback.
Within the
Oh,
setback.
yeah.
So
I
it's a
mean, the
problem.
thing is,
Either way, it is a variance, for sure.
So then you set the precedent that if someone has a non-conforming lot, they could potentially do the same thing.
Well,
again,
this
I know-
whole subdivision is non-conforming, but the thing is, on page 27.
That's why it's a variance.
We do not have a setback distance from in the northwest corner of the house. And it would be, I mean, regardless, you're going to have an encroachment there too. I know the lot line jogs slightly, and I couldn't even tell you how much it does because I couldn't find that on the survey. But anyway, to me, it's, okay, you're closer to the house on the left, you know, to the west than you are closer to the house to the east.
For sure. I was
Just
just,
looks like you could
and it
shift
goes
it.
back to a little bit about setting precedent with regard to all of this and whether we're accounting for non-conforming areas now or not, if that's to be considered or not. And if it isn't, you know, that's a board decision.
Yeah, I appreciate
Well,
the idea. I just
precedent,
don't.
doesn't count because every case, I mean, it doesn't matter how many times we approve something like this, I can turn around and deny the next one. We have done that on this board. And
But I think we are trying to at least do some level of accommodation due to the storm, and within reason.
I potentially would like them to come back with a smaller footprint. I'd like to see.
then they don't need a variance.
Right.
And, let's put it this way. If
I'd rather a
we do
1
what
foot than
I
a 3
want and
feet.
give them the eastern variance, it doesn't mean they're going to be happy with that. I know the applicant has said, yeah, we'll make it work. Well, in my opinion, due to the shape of the lot, which is, I'm going to go ahead and say it, that makes it a hardship. I mean, that is what we're here for, to take into account misshapen lots. God knows I live in the most misshapen lot in all of Treasure Island, me and my next door neighbor, because it's a total mess. But it's a lot bigger than this area, and we were able to build it within the limits of the setback. But, I just think due to everything we've gone through and the fact that it's not going to set a precedent, that we work with the guy a little bit. And Ross, if you want to, how about let's just get this thing to a vote and make a motion for the two setbacks, if you would.
Just before we get a motion, I just want to point out there's a typo in the proposed motion where it says extreme hardship. It should be unnecessary hardship. Extreme hardship is for the marine structure variances, so that was included by staff by mistake.
Unnecessary.
Say the word again instead of extreme.
Unnecessary.
Oh, no, right, yeah, just unnecessary instead of.
So here's my question. If we split it up and then they go back to the drawing board and then they bring us something that isn't going to work again, they've wasted time, money, and everything. And then they may have to come back again.
Well, the thing is, they know what the parameters are. They can have, if we approve it, and I'm not saying that we're gonna, they know that they can no longer encroach into the front setback. I'm definitely against that. But as far as that, what I consider a fairly minor encroachment on the east side, they know the parameters with that too. The architect, who I have not worked with before, but he'll know the difference. They won't need to come back.
Any other discussion?
Nope. Go ahead, Ross.
All right, I'll make a motion. Case number VAR-000499-2025, location 14293 or 93rd Avenue, Treasure Island, Florida, in regards to the variance request, section 68541, to reduce the east side setback required minimum from 7.5 to 3 feet 10 inches. As a Planning and Zoning Board member, I'm going to determine and make the motion that an unnecessary hardship does not exist pursuant to SEC 70-221 of the Treasure Island Code of Ordinances, and making a motion to deny.
Okay, can you clarify that one again? You got me on that
split it,
one,
you
Ross.
said no.
Did you?
I thought you were going the other way.
You're look,
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Sorry.
Want to amend your motion?
Yeah, I'd like to amend my motion. I'll read it again. That an unnecessary hardship does not exist.
Does exist.
Does exist.
Okay, I'm thinking, I wrote down necessary. That's my bad. So unnecessary hardship does exist pursuant to SEC 70-221 of the Treasure Island Code of Ordinances, and move to approve.
You move to approve.
the approval of the eastern one.
Yeah, you
I'll
gotta
help
read
you out here, from the required 7.5 feet to 3 foot 10 inches, and just leave it at that. That's number one.
There's also a proposed condition in the proposed order that it be
Subject to that
substantially
condition.
consistent. Yeah. Do you want your?
So, let's get this straight for everybody. I am making the motion because I'm saying an unnecessary hardship does not exist.
What do you want us to do? Which way you
I
want us
do
to?
not think that the east side setback should be granted.
Okay.
Okay, then
your original motion.
then
was
your
right,
original
yeah.
motion.
My original motion is correct.
We just thought you were going.
We
the
thought
other
you were
way.
going the other way.
Okay.
I was trying to, we thought that you were making a motion to approve the eastern one and deny the southern one.
Okay, so I didn't mean to throw everybody off. And like I said, I'm all about variances. I do try to make everything work, and I love this city more than anything, and I would love for you to build it. But it goes back to what I was saying before about precedent, jogging lot lines, different architecture, like you guys commented. I was in this same type of situation when I did mine. I'm not trying to make it about me or my house, but my architect basically stepped the project in on the one property line that had an angle to it. So that's where I sat.
So you want to move to deny the variance request for
As written.
the east
Correct.
side? Okay.
Then just read it that way.
Yep.
This is the way I read it the first time.
Except say deny instead of approve.
Okay. Say deny instead of approve. Correct?
When you read it again,
Yeah,
you
when
said
you-
you were going to approve it. You want to say you're going to want to deny the variance request for that. So do your motion again.
Someone else just do the motion. Okay. I mean, this is insane.
I'll do it if
I'll make the motion.
because I am happy to do it.
Go ahead. We just got unbelievable, by the way.
Case number variance 00499-2025, location at 142 93rd Avenue, Treasure Island, Florida, 33706. The Planning and Zoning Board has determined that an unnecessary hardship does not exist pursuant to Section 70-221 of the Treasure Island Code of Ordinances and has moved to deny a variance request to Section 68541 to reduce the east side segment setback from the required minimum 7.5 feet to 3 feet 10 inches and the south front setback.
Just one.
Oh, sorry.
And she can do both if she wants.
Yeah, the way
both
it's
if you
going. do
Yeah, but
both.
I still want to do it separate.
She's a board member. She can make the motion.
Okay, go ahead and
Setback from the
I'll
required minimum.
object.
7.5 feet to 3 feet 10 inches.
And that's it.
You gonna leave it at that?
Sure.
Okay.
This is just the east.
All right, we're only going to be voting a
denying
yes vote is to deny. That's
there's a-
always
if there's a
something we need to
second for the
clarify.
motion.
Who's going to second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Kara Sims, second by Ross Sanchez. Can we have a roll call, Tia?
Kara Sim,
Aye.
Ross Sanchez,
Yes.
Gary Potenziano,
Holding a minute. I'm just holding. Pass me for a second.
okay. Chris Downing,
Aye.
Marvin Shavlin,
Yes.
Richard Harris,
No.
Gary
Okay.
Potenziano,
No.
Oh, well, that is defeated 4-2. The second motion, whoever wants to do that one, we know it's process. So go ahead and make the motion, please.
The planning and, case number variance 00499-2025, location at 142 93rd Avenue, Treasure Island, Florida, 33706. The Planning and Zoning Board has determined that an unnecessary hardship does not exist pursuant to Section 70-221 of the Treasure Island Code of Ordinances and has moved to deny a variance request to Section 68-541 of the south front setback from the required minimum 10 feet to 6 feet 8 inches for an approximate, well, that's changed too, so there you go, done.
Okay. Motion by Kara Sims, second by Chris Downing. I'm just making a comment. You know, of the board members here today, I'm the only one who lives in this area, Sunset Beach. I totally disagree with this, but it is a board decision, not mine. So go ahead with the roll call vote, please.
Kara Sim,
Aye.
Christopher Downing,
Aye.
Gary Potenziano,
Aye.
Ross Sanchez,
Yes.
Marvin Shavlin,
Yes.
Richard Harris.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on here. The next.
Actually, Richard, I can make sure that I have this right. So I'm just make sure I have this down, so whenever I type up this development order. So I'm striking out, of course, fixed need corrections where it's going to state unnecessary hardship. And then we're splitting these up into 1 and 2 variances. The first one for the east side setback and the second one for the south side setback, correct?
Correct.
And they've both been denied.
Both been denied. First one 4-2, second one 6-0.
All right, thank you.
Okay, public comments for non-agenda items. Anybody have any comments? Go ahead, Alan.
Well, thank you for your vote. I totally agree with it. One thing was said that I got a variance for height. As you all know, there are no such things as height variances. You know, the most difficult thing about making this meeting today was there's absolutely no parking out there. What do we do about the parking?
Well, I think there's some sort of public safety event because, yeah, it made it a
Allow
little
tall
more
building,
difficult.
allowed growth and density in downtown, you'll get some parking.
I got a
Just
friend that's
past
got an
yesterday.
office. I parked by the hardware store and walked over here. I was glad I made it in time.
It's not a hardware store anymore.
Is this our new city attorney, or are you a fill-in?
I'm a fill-in. I work with Jennifer.
Well, nice to meet you.
Likewise.
All right, reports and comments of city attorney, staff, and board members. Seeing none, we have nothing. Next planning and zoning board meeting will be the 2nd in May. Let's see here, that makes it the 8th. Jesse, it was my understanding that we were going to get some a downtown case. Is that going to make it next month?
I'm trying. Comments were sent out to the applicant, so if you were discussing Pirate Square, correct?
The parking lot?
Yeah. Yeah, so comments were sent out, I'd say maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, possibly. So if they get things corrected in time, possibly next month.
Okay. Well, I would like we always do, to have the LPA meeting following the P&Z meeting. And, whatever we have for LPA. And any other comments from anybody?
I just had a question for the staff, or, for the city. If someone comes for a variance, they had to pay the fees to bring their variance request to us. And if it's turned down, if they're coming back for another one, they have to go through the entire process. If for the same plot or property and project, they can't come back a second time without payment. Is that right?
Complimentary.
Okay.
Yes, we need the money.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, Noah, this is more of a question. I believe they could continue the case, come back with a revised plan if you had not voted to deny, but they didn't ask.
Right. Okay. That's the nuance.
Well, I know the applicant left. I've always recommended that people live within the setbacks due to the number of fires that we have had in Sunset Beach. I don't think that, well, during the storm, that's incorrect. There were fires on Paradise and Palms that I know of. But before that, we had fires in Sunset Beach that burned up houses on each side. So setbacks variances are not a good thing. But anyway, regardless of that, let's have a motion to adjourn.
One moment.
Okay.
I believe the meeting date is the 15th? It's the third Thursday?
Was I looking at?
Yeah, it should be the 15th.
I'm sorry, I was thinking 2nd, but yes, 3rd, 15th. And
So just for clarification, Catherine, if they had requested instead, because this is good for general audience to know and the public, if they had actually come up and just said, hey, can we continue this and we'll go back and look at our plans again, and we hadn't had the vote, then they wouldn't have been charged again to come back?
That's where I was getting, is it
Yeah.
just from procedural.
Appreciate it. Just because, again, it goes back to hardships of everyone has been damaged by these storms and everyone's, looking at dollars. So, thank you.
okay, on my email I got from Tia, we have an LPA meeting. It's not going to be a long one, but we do have one, right?
I'm sure we'll find a
Okay.
way to make it long.
Let's have a motion to adjourn this meeting. We're going to
Yeah, that'd be great. I can go check out my permit. Thanks, Richard.
take a 10-minute break. And we will reconvene at 3:35. How's that sound?
Oh, it's really long.
15 minutes, 10 minutes.
Oh, excuse me. God, I looked at my watch wrong. 3:25. Okay, welcome to the City of Treasure Island Local Planning Agency meeting for Thursday, April 17th, 2025. Not a lot of people in the audience, but if you wish to speak on a topic which is on today's agenda, a speaker's card is available at the table by the entrance and must be completed and given to the chairperson. Please do not address the board from your seat, but rather from the podium where your comments can be heard by all and recorded as required by Florida statute. The scheduled topics may be presented under the public comments section of the agenda. Okay, we've already had a Pledge of Allegiance. Make sure your phones are still off. We're going to swear in our new member before we have a roll call. So Mark, stand and be sworn.
Raise your right hand, and you're going to repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Mark Strojeski,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida.
that I will well
I'm sorry?
that I will well
That I will well
and faithfully perform
faithfully perform
the duties on the Planning and Zoning Board
the duties of the Planning and Zoning
and local planning agency
and local planning agency
of the City of Treasure Island, Florida,
of the city of Treasure Island, Florida,
on which I'm about to enter.
which I am about to.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, since you're talking, go have a roll call.
Mark Strojeski.
Here.
Gary Potenziano.
Here.
Ross Sanchez.
Here.
Kara Sim.
Really?
Christopher Downing.
Sorry, yeah, here.
Marvin Shavlin.
Here.
Richard Harris.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, the one item on today's agenda is discussion of the local planning agency's role in the upcoming revision of the land development regulation, and I hate that word visioning because this city's been visioned to death. I want to say the future of Treasure Island.
Okay.
Phase 2 of the LDR update.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Catherine Yonkin, Community Development Director for the one I haven't met. So we were asked by the board at a recent meeting to kind of just have some time to talk and have some visioning, so that's what we're here to do today. I wanted to kind of give you a big picture update of where we are in the overall planning process. So I'm sorry, this date is wrong. I wrote this in the last hour.
Yeah.
In June of 2024, the city's updated comprehensive plan was approved by the state of Florida. The comprehensive plan is the vision for the city, which is implemented through the adoption of the land development regulations, and those have to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So these land development regulations that we are working on and talking about are required by state statute. And the city has a consultant for both phases of this project, which is Kimley Horn. Those of you who've been on the board have had some previous presentations from them on where we are in the process, what our goals are for the process, and what we were working on. So phase 1, which is planned for adoption this summer, has the goals of making these LDRs consistent with the comprehensive plan and the current state laws. The other big primary goal of phase 1 is to make this code clearer, consistent, and easier to use. For those of you who have ever tried to develop something in Treasure Island, our code is very old and it has been patched together over many years. This is the approach to make this make more sense, make things easier to find, make things more consistent. So consistency between the comprehensive plan and the LDRs is required in order for the city to have legally defensible plans. So the reason we broke this up into phase 1 and phase 2 is phase 1 was kind of a fast track to get this legally in line with the comp plan. The comp plan in the city of Treasure Island had not been thoroughly updated since 1998. So one of my first tasks when I came here was to work on the comprehensive plan. We had it all done. We had it ready to go. We had it approved by the state in 2023, and the state legislature passed legislation basically making its legal status not clear. So we had to go back through the process, take it back around and back through to adopt it again a year later. They basically said anything that could be considered more restrictive or burdensome was automatically thrown out. So you couldn't operate with a comp plan where you didn't know its legal, what could be considered something. So we have been, the city has known for a long time that we needed to update the comp plan and we need to update the land development regulations. So we're now getting close to phase 2. You're going to hear phase 1 in the next month. You're going to see ordinances. The land development regulations are a part of the city code. They really deal with the development of in there are floodplain regulations, zoning regulations, marine regulations, docks, seawalls, stormwater, landscaping, all of those kind of things fit within the LDRs. There are many other chapters of the city code, but this department and this board is responsible for the particular set of the land development regulations.
So Catherine, when are those coming to
As soon as we can make this happen. As we all know, we've been in a kind of a crisis mode for the last 6 months. So we are working very hard to get those to the board on a very quick basis. A lot of it has been written. A lot of it is being changed now because we have to incorporate all the changes that were already made in the 8 ordinances that adopted the terrain modification program. So we changed a lot of definitions, as you know, in there. We changed a lot of the marine regulations for seawalls. So all those changes have to be incorporated into what we already had.
That was my next question.
Yes.
Is how
Yes.
some of the things
So
that have recently
we actually
happened have had impact on this.
many, many new ordinances that we passed in the last several months that all have to be incorporated before the final version comes to you. So phase 2 is the exciting part, the part that people are excited about and looking forward to. So our impetus for phase 1 is to be legal, to be defensible, to have a code that's clear. Our phase 2 is where we look at what does the city of Treasure Island want to do? What do they want to become? What do they want to have? Where do they want to have it? What does it look like? All of those kind of things. So that visioning starts this summer. I know Richard doesn't like that. What word did you want to use?
Oh.
The future of Treasure Island.
The future of Treasure Island.
The future.
I think that's a good way to put it, too.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
How about progress? How about the progress?
The
of Treasure
progress of
Island?
Treasure
Progress is
Island.
good, too.
So I just want everybody to kind of understand, we are in a coastal high hazard zone. So you can't just say, oh, I want to change this zoning. You have to go through a whole process of making sure it's consistent with the local, with our comprehensive plan, with the Fort Pinellas regulations, and with the state statutes for development in a coastal high hazard zone. So that sets in motion a whole set of planning steps, which I'll outline for you in a memo because you don't want me to present them here.
But I don't think that that would be a direction that we're trying to go when it comes to changing something like that. I think
So-
there's more attributes within different areas of the city that we're trying to change to invoke progress.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, staff is hearing from some people height and density. So those are the kind of things that require a much longer planning process.
Do we put their names on a blacklist in the back room, or?
Well, that's why this is what I'm going to get to next.
Okay,
but
'cause I was
that's
gonna say,
why
'cause those two words,
This
but-
process of involving the community and seeing what the community wants as a whole is really important because the city went through, and I don't have the dates, but sometime in 2016, 2018, they tried to increase height and density in certain parts of the city, and the citizens voted no. They said no, and they made sure that that did not happen.
A lot's changed since then.
But that was my next sentence.
Okay.
I think we have a lot of new residents. We have a lot of interest in the city, and I think we have a lot of, we've been through a crisis, and things have changed, and people have a different vision of what they want to see. You know, how do they want to live, and what does it look like?
And we need to find ways to collect money to pay for things in the city. I'll say it.
I see our new economic development director's back there. Hi, Director.
Yes.
I'm sure a couple meetings ago we talked about incorporating what the vision she sees and where we are. We're going to start incorporating some of the things she's doing that I can't see. It's not transparent right now, but that's starting to come to the forward.
Yes. So what the biggest part of this, like phase 2, as we're going to call it, is how do we go about the process? How do we get community input? How do we make sure that this is the path that the city wants to take? What's important to the people that live here, and what do they want to see? So I just wanted to kind of go through legally what the duties of the Planning and Zoning Board are and what their influence is on this process. As the local planning agency, you see all ordinances, you see the comp plan, you see everything that affects development within the city in your in your monthly meetings. So you're pretty familiar with how that works. But the same members of the Planning and Zoning Board, as you know, serve as the local planning agency. And so those duties we talked about, adoption of amendments to the comp plan, new LDRs, new development agreements. If we have development agreements with developers, you will see those. Actions on rezoning, on future land use changes. So a lot of times when in Treasure Island, we have, the comprehensive plan has future land use categories. The land development regulations have zoning categories. But in our case, they match up one for one. In a lot of cities, they don't. For instance, there will be a future land use category that contains multiple zoning districts. Ours are a one-for-one match. So when we go to change zoning, we also have to change the future land use map in the comprehensive plan. So these things are matched together. This is a very confusing part of the code because it talks about these plans and how you would affect them. The board's recommendations for the physical development of the city talks about streets, bridges, causeways, parks, playgrounds, whatever, general location of public buildings, public property. Talks about streets and how they're used for public ways and grounds and places and spaces. And then whatever other functions the city commission should grant to the Planning and Zoning Board. Say if they said, we want you to do X.
I have a question. When I read that, so let's just say one of the most recent topics when it came to like the police and fire, I don't think that came in front of us at all.
Nope, it did not. That went to the city commission.
But when I read that, I think that it should. Same thing with the old city 100. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Same thing with the buildings on 108th getting demoed, or what's the plan for those? I mean, nothing that. I mean, it says right there removal. I think of one of them.
Yes.
We get skipped a lot.
Yes. So those don't have to come to you, but these plans that you shall make can include these items.
Oh.
The plans.
Say that again.
We're creating basically the rules now. Like
You can.
Like we can.
You can.
I think it says shall,
I did
though.
hear a lot of complaints in the past that we didn't, of the stuff we did not get to see. I mean, this building, Treasure Bay.
Treasure Bay was a disaster.
You have to consider that a lot of these things are built under the current code, and so
yeah.
they don't require a change.
But a site plan usually comes before us. And of course, we did not see a site plan for this building. I've got my opinion of how things went, but
You didn't see the site plan
regardless,
for Treasure Bay
I'd like
either.
to, I'm sure that everybody on this board would like to be more
Removal,
involved
relocation, widening,
with the future of the city, because quite
vacating,
frankly, I'm
abandonment,
stating the very obvious.
use.
We have 4 real problem areas right now. I mean, the Gators property, our central business district, Treasure Bay, and the club. And I'd love to be able to facilitate something good to happen there. So that's my 2 cents.
I think if you read this, it's pretty obvious that the city should have been consulting with the LPA on many of the matters that have happened over the past many years, and that this board has been not included in those discussions.
Well, I can say, like, when the visioning was initially done for downtown, that all was with this board.
I remember
That was
that,
all.
right.
And that's the major last planning project that we really had of this kind of magnitude.
But I think the differentiation there is whether or not we're talking about when you do changes in planning, or whether the city is doing a significant infrastructure project like even the living seawall or anything that would be significant to the infrastructure of the city.
Yeah.
Reading this paragraph seems like it'd be common sense to have the city have the LPA's input
Can we go back to
We
the
actually did
page
look
before this?
at Treasure Bay and the living shoreline as far as whether that needed to come for site plan approval, and because the area being used for the living shoreline is so small in comparison to the land area, it was actually below the threshold that comes back to the LPA.
Again, that would be a decision.
Or,
of the
I'm
ci-
sorry, the
city
P&Z
made
for
that
site
decision.
plan,
Yeah.
sorry.
But it has docks listed up there. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is in place today, supposedly.
This is in the code today.
I mean, there's a dock in the living shoreline. There's a kayak launch.
Right, this doesn't mean you're going to see every single permit to do something. This is your vision, the plan for the city, the
Well, I guess, yeah,
vision.
that's what I mean. The
Yeah.
Treasure Bay site plan, I feel like should have come through here.
So there are exemptions to site plan review, which are based on the area of the lot and the percentage. And it said that it was exempt.
And I think
We
what
did
we're
the
all saying
math.
here is, it's not so much the letter of the law.
Because when the
as-
living shoreline is done, it's just a ribbon around the edge. So if you think of
Yeah.
the magnitude of the size of that site, if something else was happening on the site, it would definitely come to you.
Well, because I guess from
Yeah.
a planning perspective, the living shoreline could potentially affect that entire parcel of land from a development standpoint.
I think what everyone is saying here
Yeah.
on this board,
Sure.
if I'm speaking for all of them, that regardless of the letter of the law on all of this, or the regulation, it's the intent for the city to use this board as a sounding board
plan.
for how things, all this infrastructure goes forward as to be more representative in the community. So I would encourage you to, and your predecessor, the successor, to move forward with using the board for all of these purposes. And that last point here of the board shall perform other functions as deemed that the city council shall determine. I think it's up to our board here. If we want to do some additional things, we talked about this last time, and have greater input, we probably should put that in writing to the city commission and have them actually state it.
Good point.
So this doesn't,
And I'm not, Catherine, I'm not
the
coming
city
at.
commission is not required to use this, but they can use this.
Right, exactly.
That's interesting. Okay.
They would be wise to
They-
do so, in my
Thanks
opinion.
for sharing this with us. And I'm not trying to look backwards, like living shoreline, whatever. I'm not trying to look backwards. I'm trying to focus this whole town on moving forward. So I appreciate you sharing this information with me.
So going on to the point of going forward, we're talking about doing a visioning or, the future of Treasure Island, or
Whatever words we're
Treasure
going to
Island
use.
Treasure Island progress. Who does that or organizes those
Where does it come from?
sessions? Is it the city staff that's going to organize these public sessions?
Yes.
For that?
Yes. So we would organize that in concert with our consultant and, a series of public meetings. And that's actually one of my first questions is what does this board think that should look like?
And you say consultant, and my ears perk up because we all are on the city commission, are residents to using more consultants. I would like to make sure, who would this consultant be?
So this is Kimley Horn
Kimley Horn.
that
So
I
it'd
be
mentioned
Kimley Horn
earlier. It's
because
the
they were
same
the ones
consultant
on-
that's
the ones
working
on
on
the
phase
plan.
1 of the project.
Right.
They are under contract for phase 2.
Okay.
I saw that note that you had on the in the intro from the slide. Is there an ideal meeting date that we see them again? Because I don't think I wasn't here in the last meeting. Did they come in March? Because remember, we gave them some takeaways to come back with us in regards to not what other towns are doing, but they made a big they made a big review about, we know the area, we've done this in different parts of the state. We've reviewed your Gulf Boulevard, and it's like, okay, well, what can you come back and give us ideas? We don't want to be like St. Pete Beach. We don't want to be like Madeira. We don't want, but granted, Madeira does have a raised firehouse, and St. Pete Beach does have, nice fire trucks. Whatever it may be, do we know when they're going to come back with those takeaways that we gave them? I think it was was it before the storm, actually?
It was
Maybe?
before the storm.
It was before the storm.
No, I think it's since the storm, but I'd have to look.
Okay.
But basically, that was an introductory meeting to get some
Yeah.
input.
So when
and-
do they
and
come
to-
back?
They'll be back in May with some of these changes that we were talking about in phase 1.
All right. So then I can pepper them with questions instead
Yes.
of you.
You're still
Were they
looking,
given a peti-
you're
were they
still
given a-
looking, oh, sorry.
Pepper.
Sorry, Chris.
No, sorry.
So you're looking for public involvement, right? How do we
Yes.
get there? Couple things. use of the the civic associations on the island.
Yes.
Definitely get them involved, whether they're strong or not strong. Get it out to the voice. Our website.
Of course, yeah.
And of course, the commissioners play a key role in that because they should be going out there and questioning their constituents, right?
Of course.
And I think there are people out there, they're at least in my district, that know my position on this board, and they will, in passing, you see them on the island, they'll make a comment. I mean, if people want to give input, they'll find a way to give input. I'm sure you know that, Catherine.
Yeah.
I'm sure this town knows that.
And there's
But I
multiple ways to get input, surveys, in-person meetings. There's many, many ways to do it. I was just like to brainstorm with you what you think are effective.
That's a good thing to do, to go down and check, because you're always going to get those folks that are not on the island and say, well, I didn't know about this.
Yes.
I didn't get any information. So you got to check all the blocks, because they're going to come back and say, I didn't know we were doing this. So you got to take all that out of the equation.
I mean, Catherine, also, we can say, I'll make the comment. I mean, we can all look around this town. Any type of progress is going to be good progress. So people want to stare at dirtweed lots, then whatever. But we got to get stuff cooking here.
Our public information officer, Jason, does a great job. It's not going to be spoon-fed to you. You're going to have to look at the coffer. You're going to have to look at our website.
He does do an amazing job.
A lot of people do, but I have heard a lot of complaints of, I didn't know about that. And I said, well, get off your, high horse and go look at a few things, because right now, and I'm repeating myself, our central business district is probably one of the worst in Pinellas County. There's no doubt about it, because there's nothing there anymore to speak of. So,
So Joan and I are working with them on all of the collective people that you've mentioned on a regular basis. It's not that we are not involved with them, and we are not trying to move something forward.
And I don't want to speak for everybody here, but I will tell you my positioning in regards to what this phase 2 looks like is, I want to put something in there that allows anybody to come in and do something in this town. Like, I'm trying to be less restrictive. I'm not saying that we have to have 50-foot buildings, but like, whatever. Like, if people brought us ideas, like, we want to hear them. Like, what works for them? What's going to create some investment into this town that can help us generate some dollars where we can build the fire station, we can, fix up the golf course, whatever it may be. But like, I think that in going into your second bullet, LPA goals, I mean, my specific goal, and not selfish, again, because my heart's in this city, is for the fact that we got to do something that is going to allow people to invest money in there. I am somewhat skittish about making the rules hard and fast, because I don't want to scare people away from putting progress into Treasure Island. That's my positioning.
And I agree with you 100%, Russ. We do not want to make it restrictive. We do need to update things. Our downtown development plan is my key one that I always object with. I mean, it was modeled back in 2006 when Celebration was a cost celebrity, and it has subsequently failed. And, there's just not much left down there. But the idea of the canyon effect, y'all have all heard me say it before, I don't want those buildings tight up against the road. And nor do I want, Catherine, for your benefit, is I don't want oceans of asphalt out in front of the buildings either. There's a happy medium. It's convenient parking with nice landscaping. Let's make this.
I want to get you before. Are you coming up to talk?
Well,
are you? Oh, okay. No, I was going to ask you, because I know you're part of. You've created a rebuild committee that meets.
Okay,
we'll have Joan up here.
Yeah.
In a few
But,
I have a
minutes.
couple more questions for Catherine first.
It's a situation where we do want to make modifications, and I agree with Ross. Let's make it so something can be built. And there's a lot of state laws that are currently coming in the books, like the livable housing ordinance that I understand was passed yesterday, that are going to change things in this city. There will be no more referendums for height and density.
We just got to give them height and density. If you want development, give them height and density. That's what a developer wants.
Just, can I correct that statement? There's already a state law that you cannot go to referendum for height and density. That was passed last year. So that's already on the books. Because the city had put in the after the 2016, 2018 time, the citizens had put in our code language that said you had to go to referendum for height or density changes in a zoning district. But state
Which is
law
gonna make it even
changed that last year.
And that's going to make it even more important that the LPA gets more involved, and the city commission is going to have more power with regard to how those things move forward in terms of development. Ross, I'm really in favor, like you are, in being super flexible to get whatever growth we can to get in here. But at the same time, I think we have this great opportunity with nearly a blank palette because of the storm and the fact that downtown was already half gone before the storm and now is going pretty close to being where we have no downtown, that we actually have a very unique
Golden opportunity
to take this blank palette and the city of Treasure Island to a whole new level and not be short-sighted about that. So it is dual. It is twofold.
And my priority, I mean, because Marv made what Marv said. For me, it's not that I want height and density. That's not my priority. My priority is I want a police and fire station. I want Treasure Bay to be, nice. I want downtown to be nice. I want Gate. Those are my priorities. Those priorities are going to take, and I want my employees of the city to be taken care of as well when it comes to benefits and 401ks and things of that nature, because that's important. And public works, I want all those people to be taken care of, but that happens with
investment.
Exactly.
Investment,
so that's
And
my
that's what
position.
the developers want.
Correct.
So, I mean.
One thing to think about is, the downtown St. Petersburg, Central Avenue is the artery to a Pinellas County beach, which is Treasure Island.
Yep.
And if you guys look, everyone's familiar with downtown St. Pete because it is on the map and it is exploding. The only way it can go is this way.
Yeah.
So the fact that we can get it over here and more progress, it's only going to be beneficial to where we can talk
We're
about
the
those
direct
things that we're
beach for
looking
St. Pete. Catherine, I had a quick question with regard to Kimberly Horn and that they're supposed to be coming back to us. Have you given them specific written requests for what they're going to come back to us with?
So on the phase one stuff, yes, because those are all
and I guess I'm getting more to Ross's point.
the
that there were a few
375 things in our code that needed
asked
to be
about them in
fixed.
there were, I guess, ideas
Yes.
that we wanted them to come back with. Have we given them a charge to come back with those ideas at their next meeting with them?
I'm going to have to go back to that meeting because I'm not really familiar
Lots
with what that
happened.
was.
Lots happened
And a lot has happened
I know I'm
since.
putting you on the
So
spot on that, but if
Yeah,
you
we'll
could take
be
a look at
prepared.
that and
Sure.
and just from the standpoint of timing, remind them what we were looking for from that last meeting.
Before everything happened.
Because that's part of what they would, could save some time in bringing that to us.
yes.
Well, one of the main points, Chris, was creativity. And let's put it this way. Unfortunately, we sit in one of the ugliest buildings in Treasure Island in the city hall. It's a glass box. And what I have always said was, I don't want a glass box. I want the Don Cesar. And I related that to Kimberly Horn. So, a little creativity in our central business district, a little creativity on the Gators property. Actually, the building at the club looks pretty good. It's new. And Treasure Bay, of course, the storm did it no favor, so it needs some help as well.
But even since that meeting with Kimberly Horn, 108th is a blank canvas now, whereas when we had that meeting before, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's another piece of it.
Lots changed.
Do we need to,
Well, we have been, and Joan will come talk to you in a moment, but we have been meeting with all of the subject property owners that keep being brought up and asking them what they need to move forward and asking them what it takes to move this forward.
Can we get a for sale by owner sign and put it out in front of the old city buildings on 108th? Just see what we can get for them.
There's nothing left. They're gone.
Exactly. It's just land value. It's great.
So, and to your point, what you just made about what you've been asking those developers for, is there a short list of what are the barriers to current development?
So
I think we know some of them, but
I can kind of summarize for you. One of the developers has said it's height and density. The numbers don't work. I don't care how I add them up, they don't work.
yeah.
So the cost of construction nowadays and what it takes to get your money back and the cost of money, because, development is all about the cost of money and time. Time, for a developer, time is money. So they want a lot of surety in their code. They want to know what they can build. For instance, the Thunderbird came and they said, could you change the code so we can have more height and density? And I said, yes, but it's a very long process. And it would take approximately, whatever, I don't have the whole outline with me. And I said, but you have grandfathered density. So you can build more density than what the code allows because of the hurricane. So they were able to keep all of their rooms, and instead of having, I believe it's 206 very small rooms, they now have 206 two-bedroom suites.
Awesome.
So the money worked
Yeah,
because
that worked.
You could have told them,
it's units, it's not square footage.
you also could have told them to come for a variance for height if you wanted to, right?
They could have, but they're actually not, their height is
Well,
not the issue.
We'll see
for-
it next month.
For the Thunderbird.
Yeah. Or we'll see it at some point, I
Yeah.
guess.
So that is the route they're going now.
We
Yes.
don't know.
We don't know.
We'll know in a month or two.
Yeah, it will
Nothing's
come
final
before
till
this
it's
board,
here.
so I don't want to go too far deep
Correct.
into it, but it'll
It
come
comes in
to the
front of here.
P&Z for site plan approval.
Yeah, I knew that. I'm just asking a question.
And the application is in, so we're working with them on that.
Okay.
So this may be more to talk about when Joan comes up.
I'm sorry, it may be 106. I might have totally misspoken.
with the-
One moment, I'll get that right for
And I
you.
know there's a lot of discussion about where the fire station is going to go on 108th or not, and the effect of all the, the property, the city hall being, taken down. That whole stretch of property that's waterfront, that's part of this blank palette that I've been trying to state that gives this huge opportunity that's going to be a once in a, generation or millennia, at least a century, for us to do something with that land as a city that encourages this development. And that may mean that the city does something by itself that's not making money directly, it's just setting something up for the rest of downtown. But it's also an opportunity to do a public-private partnership on that land so that we could overcome some of these barriers that the developers have for rebuilding parts of downtown and doing it in a cost-effective way, that if the city is a partner in a part of that, more can happen. And I think that's part of what this board can play a role in, and we got to find a way to do that.
Yes.
But maybe that's something for Joan to talk about as well.
Okay. And one of the other properties that keeps coming up is the club. And
Right.
I don't know if it's public knowledge or not, but the club and the two condo towers at 450 and 500 Treasure Island, the two further to the east, those were all developed as a master plan back when they were built. And all the density, residential density, was used up in the two towers. That's why they're so tall. And the club and those two things were tied together legally from the get-go. The owners, and they were always in common ownership, and the owners of those condos were always required to be members of the club. They shared parking, they shared a lot of other things through legal agreements that they had between themselves. They came back to the city, I believe, and I can give you the exact time, but they came back to the city, said, no, we still get to develop the club with all the same density that we already gave away to the other. They split up the property and said, oh, we're not with them anymore, we still want to develop the club. And we said, well, you gave away all your density, you've already used it up. That actually went to court, lawsuit, et cetera, and it was ruled in favor of the city that the density was gone. So we've been talking to the owners and the owners' representatives about this would take a whole master planning project, which is something that this board would, this is one of the things we may want to approach, of a master plan to make that a mixed-use district. But that's going to involve those condos, because we can't just rezone the club.
Right.
We can't spot zone the club. And the club is tied together. It's got two condos that it was developed with on one side and two other condo buildings on the other side, right? So we have to look at this as an area plan, and how does it work together? And do the residents there want that? So this becomes a very public, process that we go through to find out what do people want to do.
Residents also want, police and fire, they want nice stuff, and so we'll have that we'll have that battle, or we'll
But
have
that's why I'm
those
saying this
conversations.
becomes a very public process, because you can't just
All for it.
say to the club, here,
Right. No.
All for
you
it.
have this,
They also
and
want
your
their-
neighbors, they don't want that.
Residents
So
also don't want their
you have to
taxes.
think about it holistically as to
Well,
what
those
everyone
things we
wants.
Yeah.
It's gotta be a win.
Residents,
It's gotta be a
residents
win
also
for
don't want their
everybody.
taxes to go up either.
Right.
So,
Right. So-
I'll be more than happy to discuss that balance with anybody.
That's where we need that innovation.
Yes. So there are things going on. Just because it's not all public, there is a lot going on behind the scenes where we're talking to all of these owners and all these developers to try to figure out what it is they need to change, what needs to change to make this successful for them. And that's part of this whole job that we have for the next year, is to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, we just need to put it on nitrous oxide and, I mean, I know we got a lot going on, but we gotta get cranking.
Yeah.
Yep. Joan, did you have some comments you wanted to make in order to?
I do. I'd love to add, and again, it's been a lot of privilege to work with Catherine and her team, meet with these owners since I last saw you. Again, Joan Goodrich, Economic Development Director for the City of Treasure Island. You know, the island put in the Office of Economic Development just this January, you know, to help with the conversation, to help support this movement forward. So what astounds me doing this work for more than 35 years is the care of the property owners, the commercial property owners that are from here. You know, they've lived here. They've assembled this land for several decades, you know, to get to the point where, you know, now they want to do what's best for the community moving forward. So that sincerity of being a partner with the community, with you all, with the city, is very strong. So, and again, you know, as Catherine had said, they've been very specific with us on what's holding them back. And I think the opportunity, or maybe one of those things that spending more time talking about, is development from a mixed-use perspective. You know, we've got an opportunity now just to not think of that parcel as for a hotel, or that parcel for just, you know, a strip shopping center. You know, that we can unleash the full potential. Highest and best use is mostly used, I guess, in the planning world, as Catherine's teaching me, you know, as we move forward. So I think that's extremely exciting because as I sit in all of these meetings and conversations, that's what I hear our community wants. They want vibrancy back, they want excitement back, they want, you know, places where they can, you know, have fun with their families. So just wanted to let you know that. Now, so again, I'm starting to study all of the strategic areas. Again, John's Pass, downtown, the Treasure Bay area, and primarily that's the yacht club that y'all were just talking about. You know, that's about $250 million just in municipal value right now. So imagine how we can improve the non-residential tax base if we unleash the potential of that land. So again, the land to municipal value is $250 million. So we've got great potential to, you know, reach a goal of doubling the non-residential tax base in a particular point of time.
Amazing.
And so that's my goal. My goal is to increase the non-residential tax base, to make sure that we can grow and retain jobs, to diversify the economy, and to improve the life of Treasure Island. I mentioned, or someone had mentioned about Rebuild TI. I have been spending a lot of time working and supporting the city manager's Rebuild Treasure Island working group. This is the group that is looking at all of the opportunities for funding to help us rebuild, recover, and put in the 21st century infrastructure that we must have if we're truly going to bring Treasure Island to life. And I'll tell you, it is, it's overwhelming for those volunteers on the working committee as they get into all of the alphabet soup, the FEMA and the CDBG-DR and the EDA and the yada, yada, yada. It's been quite eye-opening. We're not winning right now in this regard, though. We got some news on Friday that FEMA public assistance dollars, there's different categories, A, something called BRIC, and then C, D, E, F, G, H. We just learned that FEMA BRIC funding has been taken off the table for communities like us from Washington, D.C. So this is where we had potentially hoped to bring down money from Washington to help us with the public safety complex, some of our other key public infrastructure. I don't know how many of you all are following Pinellas County, the $813 million for the CDBG DR dollars. The county just had a workshop meeting this morning. The draft plan of action for that $813 million has been formulated. We will now start a 30-day period of public comment before that plan gets finalized by the Board of County Commissioners in May. People First is the program that the county's putting in place for that $813 million, so helping families with repair of their homes or rebuilding their homes. Again, a certain percentage of that money actually goes to our low and moderate income families. We do have low to moderate income families that live here on the island. About 22% of our families fall into that category, but it is going to be the county's approach to actually develop programs at the county level that will then that will allow our residents to partake in those programs. Some counties that have received this money, sister counties south of us, actually use their municipal partners to develop programs that are for their own community. So from a county point of view, the county will maintain most of that money, put programs in place for our families, and then there will be a one portal in for programs for housing, for infrastructure, and for small business needs. So none of that money is going to come to Treasure Island. There is now a segment of the infrastructure money that potentially will have a chance to compete for, and that amount of money is $106 million. And this is where, again, public safety, some of our master lift station and other projects. So in the city manager's Rebuild TI working group, we've identified 150 line items associated with our damaged or destroyed infrastructure. Of course, the projects that are on the city's 5-year capital improvement plan and projects that have been carried over or encumbered from one year to another. So the team is trying to figure out, okay, what are our priorities? What is our community saying to us from unmet needs, and then doing our best to try and align ourselves with whatever bucket of money potentially is there.
Has the county said what criteria they're going to use for this infrastructure money in terms of priority of where it goes?
We just know
like
of
life safety
timing.
or something?
We just know of timing right now. I haven't reviewed the plan of action that's on pinellas.gov that just came out today. So this is where we haven't yet reviewed. It's like a 150-page plan of action. So we'll have some of those details, but we are participating in.
I suspect that they'll put some criteria or priority on certain types of projects, and then I would imagine that, life safety may be one of the criteria, and that would be, you could probably shorten your list of the 150 items that we want to go after.
And also mitigation projects. So again, the city is a great participant with the county on local mitigation, hazard mitigation. So some of the projects, seawall replacement that we've had in line for some of those other buckets of money is where the county will look at that first.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but Catherine and Mary Ellen and Jesse, has us pretty well positioned, for that. I think the point that I'm trying to make is our county partners are just beginning to, I think, understand some of the impact that beach communities like Treasure Island have been through. But quite frankly, most of our county has moved on from the 2024 storm season. So, but for us continuing to raise our voice on what we need from Treasure Island, we won't get. So kind of that squeaky wheel. So I'm inviting you all to check out what the county's doing with CDBG DR. We really could use more voices and champions with whatever context you have with the county. Weigh in on the public comment period and say what you think. But we need more voices to the choir to make sure that in this competitiveness of disaster recovery funding that we get. Right now,
Can
we're
you
not
send us,
getting.
everybody on the board here, the link to that so that we can
Yeah, I can
put
share
comments
that
into the
with-
public
yeah.
comment? Okay.
Thank you for the work with Rebuild and TI Group. Obviously, a collective of trying to capture whatever dollars may be out there. In regards to like, my big thing like that, let's say 106 million that was for public safety. Like, who would be presenting like our case in regards to like allowing us to have access to that money for like a police and fire station? Because I don't know the stat, but there's got to be some number out there that is, our beaches are probably used by county residents more than actual residents. So like, wouldn't it be important to the Pinellas County to help with police and fire? Because right now we've got our current situation. Is there somebody within the group that's hammering home on this is why we need that money or presenting that case?
So again, we're definitely preparing those business cases.
Okay.
We've been fortunate that Commissioner Kathleen Peters has actually been pretty engaged with the Rebuild TI working group.
Okay.
She's given us some great ideas and insights. Again, she's from here, so she's got some sensitivity as she balances, the different hats that she wears. But yes, that is something that we can definitely share. Some of like infrastructure isn't going to happen. You'll see in the materials from the county, not until housing's coming first through summer and winter. Infrastructure won't come, and opportunity for grant applications or business cases until early 26.
Wow.
So some of this is rolling, and we've learned, again, any money we receive from FEMA is not coming to us for a while.
Like, I'd be the guy arguing that like our fire department sleeps here, so it's technically housing for them. I'd be that guy. I would be that's the way that I would be.
Then I'll make sure I get
feel
some
like
of
he
this
should be on your
information to
rebuild
you.
committee.
If you need a guy that goes and sells, like, I'll be more than. I mean, yeah, I carry a hammer, but I'm saying like we'll figure this out. That's why I'm trying to get that intel. And I appreciate you sharing that with me. And, some of these other counties, like you had mentioned, some of our neighboring cities are, they've kind of moved on, from the storm, like they're doing better because they've allowed progress over the last 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, we're sitting here now, and as you can see, I mean, we have not been the most progressive type of city, and it's kind of, as we all know, it's stung us, and it's stung us pretty hard. So,
It's Renaissance time, and that's quite exciting.
yeah, and as much as my 4-year-old and I appreciate the, cigar shop that's open next to the laundromat, like we need something else. I want Chris to be able to take his granddaughter, to somewhere other than the beach or other than one of the cajillion parks we have on the island. So appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Is it worth one of us sitting on that committee with you?
I don't think we're allowed to.
Are we not?
Russ, actually, Commissioner Dickey, the city manager, have formed a task force to go after that money. So
Right, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, but
what I can do is share the information with Catherine so she can get it out to you from a call of action point of view when it's time. Absolutely.
can we get like just updates? Because I know you guys meet like every 2 weeks.
We meet every Monday.
Or every Monday.
And I can share the summary notes from the meetings.
I think there
too, that
was
we
some
keep.
type of conflict. I remember a lot in the in the February meeting you had came, and I think we were kind of caught off guard. And I think
I thought, I wasn't, I thought LPA could.
Yeah, the working group is
more.
not a sunshine body, because it reports to the manager.
So it's not.
It's not open.
Or it's not
open.
It's not open. It's not an open meeting.
I see.
Unfortunately. And I can respect the fact that they're trying to get, not be overwhelmed.
Yeah, weekly update would be awesome.
We keep summary notes, and there's, presentations that we receive that, who's ever, if you just let me know you're interested, we can add you to
That'd be
can
great.
add you to
And
that
the city manager put that group together.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
he
Commissioner Dickey,
neglected to
yeah.
put anybody from the LPA board on that committee.
I don't think it's allowed. I don't think it's allowed. I think when Jennifer
I
was
don't
here.
think it was an issue of conflict.
Because there's only one commissioner on there, so there's that. Can we find that out? Because it would be really helpful if it's potentially possible for one of us to be in those meetings. Because we both can't, two of us can't, but one of us could.
Yeah, but
I also like you just attending our monthly meeting though. At the
Yeah,
same
that's,
time.
I like that too.
Yep.
And I've heard great things about the work that you're doing, so keep it up, please. Thank you.
well, that we're all doing together, right? Great
Yep.
opportunity.
We have to.
And I've heard great things about the committee. I just want to learn more.
We have no other choice.
I can follow up with you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Reports of city attorney, staff, or board members. Seeing none. Next LPA meeting, hopefully after the P&Z meeting on the 15th of May. Any public comment out there? Seeing none, let's have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thanks.